A Spurs swap deal for Brennan Johnson is something that Spurs are going to try and do to tempt the youngster away from Forest. But are Forest looking for cash or not? Welcome to your Forest transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you're watching this. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. In today's video, we're going to tell you the latest on Brennan Johnson, as Spurs seem to be upping the ante in their attempt to get the young Welshman out from the City ground. We've got news on a defender that Forest may be going back into, a defender that may be leaving Nottingham Forest for places up north. And we also have an exclusive interview with the new Nottingham Forest women's manager. On top of all of that, guys, there's so much going on this week. There will be a live stream tonight at about 6 p.m. where myself, Twist, and Simple As will be going through our predicted 1 to 20 in the Premier League this year. No doubt there'll be a lot of arguments, and we'll look back and see how well we did from last season. We've got, of course, the Predictor League kicking back off this week. The link for it is in the description below. Get yourself signed up. All you have to do is predict the teams. We'll go through it all on Thursday or Friday this week. We've also got the FPL League, the Fantasy Premier League, kicking off on FFTV Premier League. The link for that is in the description as well. So make sure you're signed up and let's see how good your teams are. And let's get into the news and let's start with Brennan Johnson. All right, so this Brennan Jono saga is not going away and in fact is ramping up. We told you yesterday that Spence was made available from Spurs to leave if he so chose to. But what we also knew, and we've told you before, is that Spurs are interested in Brennan Johnson, especially if Harry Kane is to go across to the Bundesliga and Bayern Munich. Why? Because Spurs would need to bring back another homegrown player into their midst. Not so much the whole replacement, a 9 for a 9, because Jono isn't exactly an out-and-out 9. But what Spurs are trying to do with that tight ass that is Daniel Levy is look to do a partial deal. Now, Levy's being a bit smart about it. He knows how we all feel about Spence, or should I say, a section of the fan bases. But he wants to throw in a couple of other crappers in there as well. Not Spence as a crapper. I'm talking about these other two. You got Gil or Gil, or however you say his name, the winger that's flopped really at Spurs. Went away to Sevilla last season and wasn't great there either. Excess and surplus to requirements for Tottenham. His name's being branded around. The defender, the Welsh defender, Rondon, who Steve Cooper has worked with before and has been interested in before, may actually be put on the table as well. And all these three players, it might be two, it might be three, are going to be that plus a cash injection for Brennan Johnson. And I don't like it. I'm just going to say it straight off the bat. I think two of those players are absolute crap. I don't think they'd get into the Forest team anyway. On top of that, the only one I'd take is Spence. If I had to pick from the three, of course it would be Spence. That's a no-brainer. Spence is valued at about 8 to 10 million, something like that. So if Spurs wanted to do a swap deal and they wanted to send those three players, I'd chuck two of them in the bin and I'd say maybe Spence. But it would need to be 40 million plus Spence, minimum, in my opinion. I don't actually think Forest wants to go for a swap deal anyway on Jono. The whole point, the only reason Forest would look to sell Jono is one, if a crazy offer came in, 60, 70 million, whatever, then fine. But a realistic offer, which would be probably 40, 45, maybe pushing to 50, is because of financial fair play. Cooper loves him, the club loves him, the fans love him. It's not like he wants, we want to get rid of him or anything like that. He's not a Shelby or a Chris Wood. He's come through the ranks and he's one of our own, as we keep saying, So for this deal to happen, it has to be a cash deal. Any kind of player swap for that tight-ass Levy to reduce the fee wouldn't make sense to Nottingham Forest. It would only make sense to Tottenham. But could they be tempted, is the question. Are there some positions that they are offering? With the defender that they're offering, Cooper does like him, even though I don't rate him. Maybe Cooper will look at that and think, is that better to bring him in as part of the deal? Because we are still in the market for a centre-back. And in terms of wingers, I don't know why Jill would fit in anyway. Cooper's bought a lot of wingers. We've obviously got Jono who can play on the wing. We've had Elanga come in. We've still got Dennis in the background. There's plenty of wingers currently at Nottingham Forest. But with Cooper persisting with this narrow low block formation, wingers don't really fit his system or his style currently. So it doesn't make too much sense to me. It really doesn't. I think if Spurs are going to try and go in for Jono, they need to go in with cash. But what do you guys think? Would you take this swap deal? If the swap deal was Spence plus 40 for Jono, would you take it? The problem I've got with this, even though that would be an okay deal, I just want to see Spence and Jono reunited. You know, it doesn't, you know, you can't have half the party at the park. You got to have the full two linking up, playing together again. And I just don't think this deal suits us at all as Nottingham Forest. But I want to know what you guys think. Who of those three players do you like? Which would you take, if any? And do you think it should be a cash deal only for Jono? We still don't know what Jono wants. Nothing's come out from Jono to say he wants to stay, he wants to leave, etc. So we just have to go on the assumption that maybe look, the only thing we do know about Jono is that he's changed his agent recently. And it's the same as Ramsey from Villa, as we told you about a week or so ago. And that usually is a sign that the player is intent or interested in listening to offers. So maybe you can read something into that. But the bottom line is nothing concrete has come out. So get your thoughts in on that. By the way, if you're looking down here and you're seeing this beautiful MGW, LED, framed, screened, TV, signed Forest shirt, and you're thinking, how do I get hold of that? Just click in the link in the description below. Our good friends at Football Prizes are giving this bad boy away. And honestly, the more I look at it, the more I'm just going to go and buy all those tickets to try and ensure I get it. So if you want to get in on those tickets, head over to Football Prizes. Either go to their link or the link in the description. All right, so that's the Jono story. Let's move on and talk about the defender that's been relinked with Forest. So Nottingham Forest have again been linked with Djed from Atalanta. The 25-year-old, worth about 17 million, and to me is just an average defender. I don't see too much in him. Yes, Serie A is a very defensive league, so you know he would have learnt his trade well. But I think we can do better. I think we've had better links to defenders currently than this one. But this one's doing the rounds again. So seeing that it's in the news, you know, we don't make the news. We just kind of break it, as DX would say. But I don't like him that much. I think we can do a better job. But what I will say is he's better than what we've currently got fit. And he is in his mid-20s, which is a better age profile in comparison to the players that we currently have. But for 17 million, you can get so much more bang for your buck than Djed. Could he come to Forest? Well, we do have agent Freuler, who maybe could make himself useful and, hook that up. But would Freuler really be selling the project to him? To be honest, on Freuler himself, there are still links to Juventus. But the talk is that Cooper is a fan of Freuler and would like to keep him if possible. But Forest are thinking that if they can recoup their money on him, they would probably sell. So we haven't yet seen a bid from Juventus for Freuler, but there's still plenty of time for that to happen. But back onto Djed, look, he made 28 appearances for Atalanta. He did score 1 goal, but obviously defenders aren't there to score goals. They're there to prevent them. His pace-wise is okay, decent physique, a good, solid defender. I just can't get excited about him, and that's the reality of it. I think he can do a job. I think he could work in the Premier League, but I do like the Brazilian still better from yesterday. That absolute brute of a physique just, for me, suits the Premier League better. I like his age profile at 21. He's going to be cheaper than Djed, and he's going to be worth more in a couple of years. And those are the players I think Forest need to start buying if they're going to get, that Brighton style model going on. So I'll say no to Djed. If he comes, I do think he's better than Worrell and McKenna, fine. But he's not the thing that's going to push us onto that next level. And that, for me, is the thing that I think Forest need to get. But a centre-back is definitely on the agenda currently at the City Ground. With all the injuries we've got, especially to our main two centre-backs, Felipe and Niakate, I'll be shocked if we don't see someone come in this window. But this is the latest link. I'm not a huge fan of it. It doesn't excite me. But does it excite you guys? Let me know. Okay, so the latest on Matt Turner is the medical was passed with flying colours, and he is set to be announced either today or at the latest tomorrow. I assume they're doing all the media work currently with him, all the big reveals, as everything has to be in this day and age. But the fee, as we mentioned yesterday, will be about £7 million, and it could rise to something in and around 10 million. It's not bad business. He's not the most glamorous of keepers. We did a poll on the community tab, so if you haven't voted yet, go get your votes in there. Are you excited or happy with this signing? Most of you seem to be. Last time I checked on the poll, it was in the high 60s. And I do understand that, because we cannot go into Arsenal without a keeper between the sticks. And Matt Turner is definitely better than Horvath. He's definitely better than Hennessy. But he has still got that smidgen element of unprovenness about him, because he hasn't had that many games in the Premier League. Yes, he plays internationally, but the sooner the Henderson deal gets done, the better. That still is on the card. You may have seen one or two reports today on it from journalists, etc. They're still playing catch up with the information we've given you. This is all still dependent on Hendo's injury and his ability to take the medical. Yes, there is still some back and forth going on about the loan and how many games it is before the obligation to buy will kick in. And they still will be discussed over the next few weeks. But at the moment, Turner set to be announced today for Nottingham Forest, so we will have a half-decent keeper in between the sticks against Arsenal. Now, there have been a few comments against Turner that I've gone through from the video yesterday, and a few people saying, look, he's untrusted. My Arsenal fan mates have told me we're pulling your pants down, etc. I'm going to wait to give judgment on him until I see him perform at Nottingham Forest. I expect him to be pumped up for the Arsenal game, and I expect him to want to put on a good show. But sometimes ex-players going back to their old club try too hard and end up actually playing worse because they're trying that much harder. I hope that won't be the case for him, and I hope he can get us at least a point on Saturday. But just to confirm, Turner will be announced either today or tomorrow. They're just sorting out all the media hype and the Twitter reveals, etc. So Turner is a red. Congratulations to Carly Davis, who has been appointed as the women's manager for Nottingham Forest. And here at FFTV, we got to sit down exclusively with Carly and Amber and get a few questions asked to them. So let me roll the tape as FFTV head into the city grounds, and our beloved Dino and Ez were there to ask the questions.
There's now this integration, isn't there? We've got new person at the academy. We've got you integrating more with the main structure of the club. How does that work? How does that main structure work?
Well, Craig Moore-Holland, I don't know if you've had the pleasure of meeting him yet, but he's obviously been brought in from Rangers, highly successful in running the programme across there and the development of the women's team as well. So having somebody running the football side of the game is really important, and working closely with all the coaches, and myself included, from the men's first team all the way down through the academy system. And just having those connections and support networks is going to be really important for us moving forward. And I know Craig's got some really exciting plans in place to support not only the development of the teams, but also of the coaches running those teams, which you don't often see at clubs. You often just sort of get left to run at your own devices and run the team as you see fit. But I think it's certainly important that the coaches are supported and that we have some professional development going on during the season as well. And that's something that I'm really excited to work with Craig closely on.
Do you think that the change to the hybrid professional model, obviously with professional contracts coming in, you think that's going to be better to attract more younger talent coming into the club at a greater level?
Of course, being able to offer contracts is brilliant. That's what the players deserve and should be getting. And of course, with finances comes attraction for players. We can't sugarcoat that. But it's about getting the right people in the building. It's not just about money, finances. It's about the personalities that are going to fit the culture that we want to develop here. And that'll be something that will be really at the forefront of my recruitment strategy.
Fantastic, thank you.
Great work there from the boys. And I just want to add a point here that we as Forest fans should be, and I'm sure we are, But we need to be fans of not just the men's senior team, but the youth teams and the women's teams as well. There's a lot of work and a lot of investment going into those channels. And it's really important that we as fans get behind them. So make sure at the very least you're following them on social media. There's a specific Twitter page, for example, for the Forest women's team. And make sure when they're playing, you're taking a vested interest in the scores. You're supporting them just as you would do with the men's team. We're going to be working with the club to ensure that we can raise the profile of these players, that you guys can get to connect better with them. And I'm talking about myself as well. From myself to everyone else, we need to show a lot more kind of backing and support. I mean, that's a given, but you get what I'm saying. A lot more interest into what's happening in that. And it's really good to see that the club are offering professional contracts now. And I love the wording used in that interview about the promotion. More so when, not if, was used. And that's the attitude and the winner's desire that I love to see. So I'm really looking forward to see how their season progresses this year. And make sure you guys follow, and we will be giving you regular updates here on FFTV. All right, so let's move on to some outgoing transfer news. And Lewis O'Brien, yes, the forgotten Lemmy, who is back from DC United, who has been named in the final friendly but didn't get to say, is still linked with Sheffield United. In fact, there have been loan offers and inquiries coming in for Lewis O'Brien, but it seems like Forest want to hold out for some cold hard cash. And I think Sheffield United could be lining up a bid for him. Why? Because they're about to lose their best player, well, the best player they have left in Berg, to Burnley of all teams. Berg's a player that I actually think is pretty decent. He used to scare the crap out of me when we played them in the Championship. And he could be going to Burnley for in and around 12 million, which leaves a huge hole for Sheffield United in their midfield. And they're looking to fill that with Lewis O'Brien. And I don't like this. I don't like it at all. I still think there's a player in O'Brien. I'll go back. I've said it a million times. Probably our best player in the first month of last year. Him and Mangala were really holding that midfield down well. And forgetting all that, forgetting opinions about what you think of O'Brien, if he's good enough or not. What I don't like is strengthening teams that need strengthening desperately. And if Sheffield United are losing Berg, O'Brien would slot right into their midfield. And could it come back to haunt us or bite us in the ass? I think what's clear here with the O'Brien situation is that Forest's first option on him is not to loan him out. They are willing to sell him. It's just the offers haven't come through. And a lot of other clubs are still a bit hesitant about whether or not they should be buying him. And that's why we're seeing these loan offers come through. But I do worry about this Sheffield United link. I do feel that it will suit all parties if a deal can be struck. I think O'Brien still gets to stay in the Premier League, so he'll be happy. Sheffield United look like they're going to have to replace their best midfielder, so they'll be happy. And Forest could get some cash, or maybe even like a loan with an obligation to buy. But Forest are looking to get in and around 10 million for him. Now remember when he came to Forest, he came on that whole buy one get one free with Tuffalo, where the fee itself was about 10 to 12 million, but that was for both players. So it depends how you want to split it. It was never made clear. Was it a 5-5 deal? Was it a 6-4 deal, a 3-7, etc.? But let's assume it was like a 6 or a 7 mil for O'Brien. If Forest do end up getting 10 million for him, irregardless of how I feel about him as a player, you have to say that's not too bad. They've made a bit of profit on O'Brien, and that would make sense to me. But I still would like to see him. I just think we are lacking in that midfield. And even if you think he's a fringe player, with the amount of injuries we've already seen pre-season, the amount of injuries we saw last year as well, you're probably going to need him at some point during the season. And it's better to rely on him than someone like John Joe maybe, or even a Freuler. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. But let me know in the comments, do you want to see O'Brien leaving Forest, or would you be happy for him to stay? Speaking of defenders, the other one being linked to leaving Nottingham Forest currently is Scott McKenna. And there are some loose links up north to Celtic with McKenna. So could McKenna be on his way out of Nottingham Forest? The answer is, I don't really know. Logic would have dictated at the start of the transfer window that Forest had too many centre-backs. We had Bolly, Worrell, McKenna, Niakate, Felipe, Biancone coming back, and a few of the kids, etc., Mbasso, etc. Loads and loads of centre-backs. We still have Cook on the books. And McKenna, we all thought maybe that name that comes up onto the chopping block. A sacrifice that has to be made as there was too many centre-backs. However, roll on 5-6 weeks later, and we've seen Niakate injured, we've seen Felipe still out, and we're looking very, very thin at the back. So in my opinion, I probably, at the moment, unless Forest do sign a new centre-back, would keep McKenna, and I'd be more interested in moving the likes of Steve Cook on. Now, Cook has been linked to a few championship clubs, so I do expect him to go before the end of the window. But with his salary currently sitting around 30 to 35, million K a week, then does he really feel that need to have to go? Still with another year left on his contract, and he's not going to get that money in a championship club. So the question for Steve Cook is going to be, do you want to sit there doing nothing, earning the money, or do you want to kind of have one last hurrah in the championship and see if you can get a team promoted? I still think he's a great championship player. He should be nowhere near a Premier League team whatsoever, in my opinion. Well, at least not Forest's one. He just doesn't have the pace for it anymore. So these players need to move on to create some room and create some revenue and clear up some of the wages funds. So Cook should hopefully be moved on by the end of the window. In terms of McKenna, I personally would probably hold fire until we know for sure that a new centre-back is coming in. Otherwise, we really are leaving ourselves exposed. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see McKenna go, or do you think we need to keep him? Get your thoughts in down below as always. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings you up to date with your latest Nottingham Forest transfer news. Don't forget, at about 6 p.m. tonight, we're going to have a lot of fun with the predictor, 1 to 20, where are Forest going to finish, who's going to win the league, and who's going down. And the arguments, no doubt, will start to flow. So, bit of homework for you guys. One, tune in at 6 p.m. But secondly, go join the predictor stream, which will kick off again at the end of this week. The Fantasy Premier League team, if you've already got your team, go and hit the link and join the FFTV League. And we will see you tonight at 6 p.m. And get your Morgan Gibbs White tickets. Can't get the words out. And until tonight, come on, you Reds.